Happy Mum, Happy Baby is brought to you in association with Fisher-Price. Their innovative toys are designed to be loved by both parents and children at every age and stage, giving us a helping hand throughout our journey so that we can focus on the most important job in the world, parenting. Hello and welcome to another episode of Happy Mum, Happy Baby, the podcast. This week's guest is an author, she's a blogger, she's a campaigner, and she's a part-time working mummy. It's Rachaele Hambleton. Hello, how are you?
Good, yeah, good. Excited to be here.
You know what I find funny? I've read your posts for so long, I haven't heard your voice. And it's actually over the last week, I've been reading the book. I've literally had it in three different ways. I've had it in physical form.
Yeah.
I've had it on my Kindle, and I've had it on audiobook.
Right.
So when I've gone for a run, you have been in my ears.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
It's been lovely, and it all syncs up. I never knew it could do that.
Yeah, oh, does it?
Yeah.
So you don't have to search for the bit you're at?
No, so if I've just come in for a run, and I'm like, oh, I'll carry on reading while the kids are, I'll wait for Max to go to bed. It syncs up. It says you were last listening at this point, and it takes you there.
That's cool. Technology.
I know, blew my mind.
Yeah.
Never
And what did you
experienced
think of the book?
I loved it.
Oh, did you?
Honestly, I thought it was amazing. I thought your honesty throughout it was great. And because, we'll delve into you and your upbringing and everything like that. But I think I've read you say before that you wanted to start blogging because your life wasn't represented in what you were reading or what you were seeing.
Yeah.
And, I think from my experience, I wanted to start blogging because I felt like everything was so filtered and everything was so perfect.
Yes.
But you're a different, the things that you've experienced are completely different.
Yeah.
And you're shining a light in a way that's helping so many others in circumstances that I have no knowledge of.
Yeah.
And making it accessible for all so that we all kind of know what to look out for as well.
Yeah, and just normalising it really so that people see that it happens everywhere and it's not as it looks. Yeah.
So you have 5 children.
Yes, between me and my husband, we've got 2 boys and 3 girls. And a 6th on the way. That's it. I'm done.
You say that.
I know. And then I go, well, if we won the lottery, and he goes, just stop. Just stop.
Do you reckon that when this one goes to school, you might be like, oh?
No. I feel done this time.
Really?
My body feels older.
That's how I felt when I was
and I just feel like, with the others, I've always kind of felt like, oh, God, I'm not done. I don't want this to be the last one. Whereas this time, I feel like that's enough.
I've heard someone said to me, you know when you're done.
Yeah.
And I felt like
and everyone said that. And when they've said it, I've thought, well, I think I'm done, but I don't feel like that. Yeah. Whereas now I think I'm done and it's not even out. I'm finished. Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm just going to look forward to holidays, just the 2 of us. And I've done my bit, I think, now. So, yeah, no.
So let's go back to your childhood. What was your upbringing like?
So my parents originally lived up in Manchester, proper Mancunians. They had my brother and sister in Manchester, and then we moved down to a little tiny village called Gampton in Torbay in Devon, and we bought a huge guest house where my mum ran and my dad went off. He was a plumber, total workaholic, proper, northern grafter. And that's kind of my brother Matthew, who's 5 years older than me, and myself. We were born down in Devon. So I suppose really they moved down for a better life, really, city. And it was just kind of, my dad said, like, the violence was worsening and things were just not nice. Whereas they kind of wanted to kind of raise us in the country, I suppose. So that was life until I was 4. And then my parents separated. My mum left the family home in Devon and ended up moving up to Lincolnshire.
Was that a sudden thing?
Yeah. I don't recall. I don't recall her going. I don't remember. Like I say in the book, I don't know if she just slipped away in the night or there was an argument or. But there's the same age difference between my daughter Betsy and Edie as there is between me and my sister. So I just remember my sister telling me that mum and dad have split up and mum's left. So
and that was your brother telling you rather than the parents.
Yeah. And my siblings really, and that was it. She'd just gone, and I don't remember seeing her again. I don't remember. And I suppose when I go on tour, I get asked this question a lot, and I think it's really difficult because the way I kind of look at it is, Edie is my baby with my ex-partner. He's an amazing dad to her, and she sees him, stays at his house with his wife a couple of times a week. You know, and she has this massive social life, Edie, for a 5-year-old. You know, she's at parties, she's got all these friends, she's got a huge family on her dad's side, huge family with us. And I think ultimately I'm still the centre of her universe, you know, being her mum, you know, even though we go out to work and we rely on childcare, you know, she'll go to school for 6 hours and holding a poo because she only wants me to wipe her bum. You know what it's like? It's like, you know, she only wants me to put her to bed, she only wants me to cut up her chicken. Yeah. And I think Edie's, you know, the way I look at it is Edie's got this huge network of support surrounding her, whereas when I was Edie's age and younger, I only really had my mum, so I didn't go to a nursery. My dad was a workaholic. My siblings were older, so they were all at school, and my mum had moved away from everyone she knew. So I suppose I do it through Edie and think, what would happen now if tomorrow morning Betsy said to you, oh, mum's gone, like mum's not coming back? And I think, oh my God. So I look at it and I think, that's the reality, really. That's what happened. One day she was there doing everything, the next day she'd gone. So, you know, and I was 4.5 when she left. So I think life kind of changed overnight, really, because when she was at home and my parents were together, we were really wealthy. We owned a beautiful home and we wanted for nothing, you know. So yeah, it's difficult, but it's not a memory.
But do you look, now that you've got children who have been that age, like when Betsy was first sort of 4.5, does it make you look back at that time and go, like, I was so young, I was so innocent,
and I break my heart through them, I suppose, in the run up to the months coming up to them turning that exact age. She left in the January and I was 5 in the May, so I'll go, you know, a few months before and just study them when they sleep, you know, look at their toes and their fingers and just think, how am I here? Like, how did I live without my mum? You know, that's the reality of it, because I just look, you know, I look at Betsy and she's that much taller than me, and you know, she's an adult now, really, in her mindset, the way that she can support me when I'm going through stuff. She's so grown up. But ultimately, I still think at the age of nearly 15, she wouldn't cope if I disappeared tomorrow. You know, that is kind of the reality of it. And I can picture myself going through it. I just don't feel the emotion. And, you know, when I got with Josh, I had like loads of therapy about all different stuff. And my therapist kind of tried to explain to me that as a child, you know, children that suffer like abuse and neglect, they don't have the life skills to cope. So they basically just suppress those feelings and block them out. So then when you become an adult, you know, if you've grown up with an addicted parent, you know, a functioning heroin addict, stuff like that, you will remember that lifestyle, but you don't feel the pain that you must have been in. So
it's quite an amazing coping mechanism,
it is,
really.
yeah. Children are amazing, aren't they? You know, we see what they kind of go through. But I suppose that is, you know, my childhood is why my Instagram looks like it does, and my house is full of random kids. My husband tears his hair out.
I've got to say, one thing that really came across in the book is that everyone that you talk about their mums.
Do I?
Yes. It's something that you do.
Oh, you're the first person that said that to me.
The way that you talk about them, it's so lovely. The way that so many people's mums actually kind of took you in and showed you actually what a mum could be. Yeah. And there's one mum who gave you amazing words of wisdom that I literally was on the run and I cried. And
that's my best friend Layla. She gets married in July, and her parents will be there, but her mum is just still amazing. You know, sends me texts every now and then, just checking in on me, and she was just, you know, she without, and I say it all the time. Last week I opened a letter that came through to Betsy, and it was just a card from her English teacher, and it just said, "Dear Betsy, I've noticed you're not yourself at the moment around the school. Like, if anything's bothering you, just give me a shout. I miss your beautiful smile." And she's fine. She's just a hormonal teenager that's ruining everyone's life. But I just kind of thought that's all it takes for a child that's going through something at home that is going to go down that wrong path. You just need that one adult, be it a teacher, a mum, you know, anything like that can just kind of bring you back. And I think when I look at myself back then, you know, that is what I needed, and the parents that did that to me and invited me into their homes and looked after me. And things kind of stood out which make me a mum. So, for instance, I said in the book about when I'd go to my friend's house and their mum would be like, what have you had for your lunch today? And it just stressed them out. And it's the same with my kids now. It's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, you do know, because you ate 4 hours ago. Like, what have you eaten? Have you drunk your water? Have you? And they're like, oh, God. But because I was the child that nobody asked that question to, I remember when my friends would get in a mood with their mums for asking, I'd be like, oh, God, I wish someone would ask me that. And I just remember I always thought, when I have children, or even if I don't have children and I'm in a child's life as an adult, I will be the person, you know, to take on that role. So, you know, you do stuff, don't you, from childhood, I suppose. And that's something that I just drive my kids mad with. What have you eaten? What have you drunk? Do you love me? I love you.
I love you. No, you say I love you too.
Yeah. Say it back. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think even though your mum wasn't there, she almost had an almost a bigger impact.
Yeah.
Because it made you kind of go, it made you assess what a mum is.
Yeah. And
what
she was an amazing mum, you know, she was. And has she ever given you an explanation? It's difficult because, no, not really. I think she was desperately unhappy. Yeah. I think my dad worked every hour. She had 4 kids at home. She was away from her support network, and I think she was just drowning in kids, and it's hard. And I think back then, no one ever stepped in and said, "Are you okay?" Yeah. You know, the reality is, if she had been that today, would she have gone? I don't know. Would she have, you know, she said family court back then. She just didn't have the fight in her to take us, and I think when she went, it was then easier to almost forget us, you know. It was like we were out of sight, out of mind, just for her to cope, for her to be able to kind of deal with it. But things have changed, and you know, men have their children all the time now. It's normal for mums to go and work and dads to stay at home, and you know, times have changed. But I think no, we've never sat down and spoken. It's had a massive effect on our relationship now. And
funny. Do you think she's read the book?
I don't know. Because
that thing, isn't it? You kind of almost reading it, you kind of want to go, I hope she's read it, and kind of gone, maybe we just sit down and I can say, I don't know why.
And it's really hard, G, because you know, we still talk. We talk all the time because my kids still see her and she'll see them. But there's kind of an elephant in the room where we just skirt around stuff, and it's like, you're right, I'll drop her over at 6, okay, take care, and it's pleasant, but we've lost the mum and you know, and I just think, was it ever there? I don't know. Obviously we had 20 years apart, and it's hard to kind of get that back. And I think being a mum, you question your own mum. You'll do it, even though you've got an amazing family. You'll think, I love the way my mum did that, that's why I do this with my boys, you know, or I didn't understand that. Or whereas with me, I think, I don't get it. I don't get how you went, because I miss my kids when I'm at work. Like today I've come to London, I can't stay over. Josh is like, let's get a hotel. I'm like, are you mental? No, let's get home. So
is there any part in your brain that worried that when you had kids that history might repeat itself, that you might find yourself in a similar situation?
Not after I had them, but when I was pregnant with Betsy. And I've always been really honest, because that's what I do. I used to pray to miscarry. I used to run baths that were too hot, and I was horrific. And I look back and I think I was so unwell because I was just so frightened that I would let her down, and because of what she was going to be born into, it was like I knew it wasn't a life I wanted for her. So, but the minute she was born, I was just like, oh my God, I'm obsessed.
Really?
Yeah, and so many people said to me, you might not get that rush of love, or you might not. So I was prepared for that. I'd read so many books, and I did think, like, I'm not going to love her, and that's okay, and I'm not going to. But the minute I saw her, I was just like, oh God, you know, like it just all had a purpose. And I think you just get that, I just got that urge of like, I would die for you and kill for you without question, you know. She was just amazing, and I just wanted loads more of her. Yeah. So, and you know, the thing, when I obviously met her dad, I took on 3 little girls, stepdaughters. And
you were fairly young at that point.
Yeah,
as well.
19. Yeah. And now with Josh's boys, you know, that love for them is as strong as it is with my own children, because I think they don't pick their situations. They don't choose for their parents to split up and separate and argue and fight. So, you know, it's our job, isn't it? If we're going to take on kids, as hard as it is, and it is so hard, especially for, you know, some people with, you know, just fighting adults that can't behave like adults, you know, that can't focus on kids. It's difficult. So, no, but...
So when you found out you were pregnant with Betsy, you were in quite a difficult relationship, let's say. Yeah, really abusive. And then she was born and we went into women's refuge, and that was it really for, you know, for the 10 years that I was in that relationship. That's kind of how it was. And was it a shock when you found out that you were pregnant, though?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And when I look back at my life now, I think I'm amazed I got to 19, because I deal with so many teenage girls that are pregnant, you know, 14, 15-year-olds that contact me. And I think, I'm amazed that wasn't me. I don't know how it wasn't. So I think by the age I got to 19, thought, I don't think I can have kids. You know, when you think, I don't think I can get pregnant. So I kind of just, you know, if I missed the pill, I didn't bother. And then when I found out I was like, oh, God. You know, I was really frightened.
How long had you been with her dad by that point?
About a year.
Okay, and things weren't great.
No, and I knew what his girls were witnessing, so I knew what was to come. So yeah, it wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
But you know, it's made her an amazing person, and she's not had a relationship where at 15 you would think, well, she's not gonna. But you know, over half of her friends are sexually active.
Yeah.
And I listen to her, you know, I sit outside her room and just listen to the conversations when like their boyfriends have cheated, or, you know, they're doing this to them and they're doing that. And she's just got such a head on her shoulders of like wisdom. And I think that is because of her upbringing. That's because of what she's seen. It's because of the things I tell her, where a lot of people think she's probably heard and seen too much. And of course she has, you know, I wouldn't wish the first 7 years of her life on anyone, but she's not going to enter into abusive relationships, hopefully, because of what she's seen, and the advice she gives to people just blows me away.
Really?
You know? Yeah, and just like pumping her friends with like self-confidence and like just bin him off and we'll go and get a full breakfast at Brody's. You know, she's like, just stay here tonight, my mum will get us face masks. And you know, it's like she's just she's so I don't know, like her self-worth, I suppose.
Yeah.
She doesn't need a boyfriend. She's just happy, and she's just, she's just really lovely. So I think we've done all right.
You've definitely done all right.
Yeah, she's okay.
Does it surprise you looking back at yourself when you first had Betsy?
How do you mean, like now?
Like comparing yourself from now to then, like the person that you are now.
Yeah. Because I was so unwell. I think I was so... And I think that's why I just get women that contact me and say, I don't want to live. Because that was how I felt. I used to look at her and think, you know, would you be better if I just wasn't here and then your dad went on to meet someone else and you know, he was happy with her and then you had a normal stepmom. You know, I used to question all sorts.
Because you had really bad postnatal depression as well.
Yeah, horrific.
Which isn't surprising, considering the fact that you were in an abusive relationship.
Yeah. But then I think, I bumped into my friend on the weekend, and one of my best friends, and she's just had her boys are 16 months, and she just burst into tears and was like, I can't do this, like I can't cope. And we were in the middle of a really busy cafe and she was streaming, and I was like, it's fine, like just give it another 6 months. Like they can't communicate, they think they can do everything, they can't, they're just a nightmare. And but she's in a really happy relationship and she's got a good job, and she's drowning, you know, but ultimately she stood in a pub crying. And then when I said to her, like the next day, are you okay? She was like, no. And I've not been okay, and I've just lied to everyone. And that's
the thing though, I think so many people do, because you think that's your
You're
first
so
test
grateful.
as a mum.
You should be grateful, like you should be happy. So many people have it worse than you, and I think that's where we fail. And like I spoke to her on the phone and she was just in bits, and then I hung the phone up and then I burst into tears and I said to Josh, I can't cope, like I've been such a rubbish friend. And he was like, no you haven't, because she's acted like she's okay. And then he like cuddled me and he said, you won't be like that because you've got me. And I was like, yeah, but ultimately Josh, I could be, because she's got her husband and they're really happy, and you know, that is the reality. You don't know, you know, I deal with women all the time, millionaires, drive brand new Range Rovers, you know, their husbands idolise them, they've got the perfect life, but they don't want to be here, you know. And I think until kind of we change that as a society and stand up and say we're not okay.
Well, isn't that the biggest statistic as well?
Yeah.
The number one cause of suicide within mums of the first year is of death. Is suicide,
and it's huge. Yeah, it's huge. You know, when you actually delve into it, it's just massive. It's just awful. We've just had a 4-bedded unit built down in Exeter for mums, new mums with, you know, all kinds of illnesses, and they've already said we need to get it to 8. Like, we're not coping. Really? And it's only been open a matter of months, so we're fundraising now to try and make that bigger. And I think that's just our area, you know, like this is worldwide. Yeah. So
when you were going through it after you had Betsy, did you feel like you could say to people, I'm not coping?
And I lied. You know, I'd go into toddler group on a Friday and I'd be with other mums that I knew, my sister, her friends, and I just felt like I was the only one that wasn't coping because, and I don't get this, like, oh, he slept through. I don't care. I don't want to know. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is the worst thing you can ever say to anyone. Like, yeah, he slept through since he was 6 weeks. I feel like blocking you. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't ever say that. And don't go on that you've nailed breastfeeding. Like, say it Rex. Do you know what I mean? And I think I'd go in and they'd be like, oh, yeah, he slept through. You know, I'm going to go down Primark after and buy myself loads of new clothes. I feel great. And I would just be sat there like, oh, I can't do this. Like, am I the only one that's like drowning in tiredness? And yeah, it just silly little things like breastfeeding or bottle, or, you know, when you pull your jar of food out and people look at you in disgust. It's like, we don't need that. You just need to cope. You just need to survive, and this baby needs to stay alive. And whether that's with a jar of food or, you know, your homemade broccoli mash, we don't care. So I think a lot of, you know, everything I shout about is based on my own experiences, and that's definitely kind of stuck with me. You know, it's like you have this baby and you've got all these books and stuff, but the reality is you can't be honest. I think if someone walked into a toddler group today and burst into tears and said, I'm not coping, a lot of people would look at them like, ooh.
I think over the last couple of years, I feel like there's been a bit of a shift. Yeah. And there
because
is more
we're all
honesty.
shouting about it. And I get, you know, this morning alone, I've had 2 women bloggers contact me with like the hashtag on their hand and say like, we be involved in our campaign. And I think we've got to do that, but ultimately we've got to do more than just shouting about it. We've then got to be there, you know,
and continuing that conversation. It can't just be for like 1 week a year. It's got to be something that actually we tap into people
and we're okay
basis.
With, because if someone breaks their leg or their arm, we're all signing their plasticast and checking they're okay. But if someone says, my brain's not working properly and I'm not okay, we all kind of think, oh, I don't know what to do with you. So and
knowing that it's not just the newborn phase, you know, it could be like 2 months down the line, it could be 2 years down the line.
It's suddenly teenagers. Like, honestly, with Betsy, I just sit there and I'm like, I could just go to the library and get a book when you wouldn't eat or feed when you were a baby. Like, I don't know what to do. Do I buy you alcohol or do I let you go to a corner shop? I don't know. Like, what is worse?
Is there that thing though where, because, you know, you've got 5, do you think you kind of know certain stages? I know every child's different.
I think you forget.
Really?
But do you not with the boys? Like, when you think,
do,
oh God, when's he going to roll over? Well, when did the last one roll?
I'm looking through videos.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God for camera rolls. How did they used to cope when we were little?
But with Betsy, you're going through something that's completely new each time?
No idea what to do, because she's an August baby, so all of our friends are going to be 16 soon, and she's only just 15, so she's already a year behind everyone. And then, you know, you've got some mums that let them go and camp in a tent in a field. And then I've got Josh, who's a police officer, that's like, she is not going near a field. Like, we're going to arrest everyone in that field. It's just a nightmare. And then, you know, you get some parents that let their kids drink. And then you get others that are... And Betsy's like, well, can you buy me a bottle of wine? And I'm like, oh, God, like, I don't even know what to do. Like, is it illegal? Is it not? Like, do I say no and then hope that she doesn't go to a corner shop and get a guy to just buy her a bottle of wine? It's so
you're better
stressful.
off knowing and kind of guiding. Because you know, if you think back to our childhood and what we were doing
horrific.
At a younger age.
Yeah, awful. Yeah, and that's what I don't want. That's what... But it's tricky, because how I manage Betsy isn't how other parents would manage her friends. So,
and it's not how you would manage the other kids growing up. That's just how you and Betsy work.
So it's really tricky, because, you know, I'll agree to something and then she'll be like, oh, well, such and such is staying over, and I'm like, well, does her mum know that that's the curfew? And it's really hard. And Josh is just like runs the show like it's an army camp. Do you know what I mean? We're like on totally different wavelengths. She's like, can we just not mention this to him? And I'm like, kind of need to. He lives with us. He's my husband. He's in charge.
Is there something in that, when you blend families and become, this patchwork family
Yeah.
you become, do you have to learn how to deal with each other's, now your collective children, but in a way that is... you're balancing things?
Yeah, I think we've got it luckier than most. Edie still sees her dad regularly, but the other 4 are with us solely. So we've kind of had to take on those parental roles. So, and the kids have just accepted that and they like it. Yeah, they're really good. We don't ever have like, oh, he's not my dad, she's not my mum. They're just...
That's pretty amazing.
And they're brothers and sisters. If anyone goes, oh, she's stepsister, it's like, no. And, if Seb's friends come in and they'll go, why do you call her Rachel? And he goes, oh, we just call our mum and dad Rachel and Josh, because they get really embarrassed by the step kind of part of it.
Yeah.
And just like give me a look, And so we run it really well. And Josh is really good. He tells me that he's the one that manages it, and the kids see me as a way out. So we just row but he literally like dumps a whole broccoli on their plate and expects them to eat it, and they're like, Mum, like, what is this? And then he's like, eat your veg, and I'm like, you've given them a tree, like they cannot eat a tree. And then he's like, you're undermining me in front of the kids. I'm like, no, I'm not, but they can't eat a tree. Like, honestly, Josh, they won't get off the toilet for a week. Like, seriously. So we have that but I think we will have that over this baby. I don't think it'll be any different. I think, he works obviously really hard, and he can go like 2 months where he's on kind of lates and night shifts, and he isn't at home in the morning. And I really miss him doing the school run, and the kids are like, oh, is Dad going to be home? And then when he's home, it's just hell. He's like, why are you eating toast? Like, why are you eating white toast? Like, eat the one with the seeds in. Do you know what I mean? We need a bit of variety. And I'm like, she's not even had toast for a month. She's been living on shreddies. Why are you coming in? And it's all just... And everyone's like, why is he home? Why is he here? And then he'll do, like, shifts where he's home every morning for a week, and the kids are just like, can't he go to the gym? Like, can't he just go out there? So I can't have him.
And that's what you're really honest about in your posts and stuff.
Yeah.
And does it kind of feel sometimes like almost therapy? Because you're talking about stuff and adding humour to it.
Yeah.
So you're seeing the humour.
And I think when people then reply to me, like, it's the funniest thing, and that's what keeps me going. Like, he did like packed lunches and just made them horrendous, and then some woman commented and said, oh, well, my husband did packed lunches, and I told him that I'd made our daughter sandwiches and it was in the fridge, so he put it in a packed lunch, and then the school rang me and was like, your daughter's literally come in with a ham hock wrapped in foil, and she was just sat eating it because her husband had just like put this ham hock in her lunchbox and sent her in. She was like, I wouldn't mind, but it weighed about 4 stone. I don't even know. She's only like 6. Like, she sat and just stuff like that, like the way people write it is just hilarious. So yeah, I do think, and I think it helps people, because I don't think anyone's like you say, with you being on social media, I imagine everyone looks at you and thinks, God, I'd love to have G and Tom's life. They're so lucky, they're so this. But the reality is, there's days where you're like, just get out, Tom, and it's the same with the kids. It's just, I think any situation you're in, it's hard, and as much as I love him to bits, he drives me mad, and it's the same with me. It's just, it's family life, isn't it, really? So
it is. But you don't do, like, you've got a big family, and you've got 2 pigs as well.
We've got guinea pigs, and we've got 10 chickens.
Right.
That have got the run of the garden. Yeah, it's a bit like a small holding.
But you also invite in all the friends, all the kids' friends.
Yeah, we do. I don't think Betsy stayed at home for probably 18 months without a friend.
Really?
So, yeah, she loves it. But like, when people, obviously I put it on my Instagram stories, and I get so many responses and comments on my posts like, how do you cope with all these kids in your house? But they become such a part of our family that, Betsy's best friend G, I can be like, G, go and bath Edie, can you just dry her hair, can you just de-knit her, can you do that, oh, can someone hoover the stairs? And they're so good, like, they're more helpful than my kids, do you know what I mean? And then in the morning I'm like, who needs bus fare? And they're like, me. But I just think, ultimately my lifeline was other people's families and taking me in, and I just think I love it. I love that they rock in when Betsy's at work, and I'm like, oh, Betsy's not back till 5, and they're like, yeah, I know, can I have a cup of tea? Josh is like, really? I thought we were having the day, the 2 of us. So no, it's fine, and it works, and it's just nice. It's just nice to have that busy household, really. So we love it. Yeah. I don't think Josh loves it as much as me.
But really?
Well, when we met, he obviously just had the 2 boys, and they'd never had a sleepover, or they were like 4 and 8 back then. And he led like a really quiet life. He's a bird watcher, it was literally like he wouldn't speak to anyone for months other than when he was arresting people. And then he met me, and it was just like, oh. So for like probably the first year we moved in together, Betsy would just like be like, oh, Mum, such and such is staying. And I was like, yeah, cool. And he was like, we've not discussed it. And I was like, we don't discuss it. Like, that's the way it is. Yeah. And I kind of thought, oh, we've got to meet in the middle, because he just isn't used to it. So yeah, it was really difficult because we'd just come from opposites, really. But it's just so normal now, It's just, and I think with age, we're 5 years on now, so the kids are teenagers. Yeah. So when they were a lot younger, it's harder to have kids over all the time. Like Edie will cry all the time that Betsy's always got mates over and she doesn't have them. And I'm like, yeah, but when Bets was 5, she didn't have friends over all the time because you're tiny, and people don't want to let their babies go. Like, I don't let you go and stay out because Mummy wants you with me. But obviously as they get bigger, they just rock in from school. You'll have it all in a few years. You'll be messaging me like, what is going on? I've got a house where they've ruined Tom's drums. Yeah, so no, it's good, it's fine.
And how have so the pregnancies kind of compared, like if you think about your first one 19 years ago to now?
Yeah, Betsy, oh God, I think my body coped better. My births were all really, really random. So Betsy, I got something called a vulval hematoma, which was like a bleed, and I needed to have it like drained out and loads of blood transfusions. I had preeclampsia with her, preeclampsia with Lou. She was out in 18 minutes in the lift. No one believed that I was in labour. They were all like, you're being really dramatic. It's just because I was induced because of the preeclampsia. They were like, it's just the pain from the induction. And I was like, I can feel something. And they'd put me on the ward where after the women have their babies they go to, so it's full of family. And I was there with my mum and my sister and her dad at the time. I said, they wouldn't give me any pain relief. And I was like, I need pain relief. Like, this baby's coming. They were all like, oh God, here she goes. So he went to Boots to buy a TENS machine because they wouldn't give me any pain relief. And then I said to my sister, like, it's coming. And she was like, you're being dramatic. And I remember just ripping the quilt back and pulling my nightie up, and her head was there, and there were all these men and kids like sat around like, oh God. And then she ran and got the midwives, and then they literally just collapsed the bed to get me up to labour. But and he came back clutching a TENS machine, and I was like, ta-da! Yeah. And then Edie was breech, and she had no fluid and the cord around her neck, so it was just too dangerous, so she was C-section. So it's all.
And you talk really amazingly about a C-section as well. Yeah. Because I think so often we're told, oh, too posh to push. Yeah. Or and my sister stayed with me after hers. She had an emergency C-section, and it's major abdominal surgery. Yeah, it's There's
huge.
Nothing
and I
remember
the surgeon saying that to me when she came around. She said, don't think that what you've had done, because it's so common, you play it down. Like, what you've had done is a huge operation. And I get so many women now, like, I'm having a C-section on Friday. Can you tell me, like, don't do anything. Don't think you feel okay. So you're going to go for a walk, or you're going to, bath the baby, or you're going to run the hoover around, because you'll be wiped out for another 4 days. Like, literally, you need to rest. You've got to, because it's a huge, huge surgery. And I think having 2 natural births and then, or, vaginal, and then going to C-section totally wiped me out. Really? Because even just when they wake to feed, that devastation of you've just got to pull yourself up the bed, to pick them up, and it's like, it's just so, I've never, the pain was just horrendous. A lot of people pick C-section, like now I've had the choice because I've had C-section, like, what do I want with this baby? So I've actually got a course with a lady down in Devon to do the hypnobirthing in June. Yes.
I love Siobhan.
Yeah, she's amazing.
So that's Siobhan Miller, who's the Positive Birth company?
Yeah. So she contacted me, and actually I contacted her because I did a Q&A, and loads of people were saying about it, and they said about you. So then I did a bit of stalking, and I was like, oh God, I didn't know what. I just assumed it was like hippies that sit in water.
Hypnobirthing is the most amazing thing.
So I still don't know that much about it, but I'm doing a 2-day course with her in June, and I went and met her in a cafe, and we sat and we just spoke for like hours about our kids, and she was just so lovely. So I'm really excited, and all the feedback I've read from obviously yourself and other women have said, like, the difference in this birth compared to my others. is just phenomenal. And I think that's what I want, because I know I can do it. You know, I did it with Tallulah, you know, gave birth in a lift without pain relief, but it was so stressful.
Yeah.
And I think it's just not left me with a nice, I wouldn't want to do that again. So
Well, what's nice, I think, about Siobhan and Holly, who I did it with actually, is that it's not about kind of going, I'm not going to have any drugs, I'm going to just, you know, grin and bear it and, you know, be quiet and silent. It's actually about, let's get rid of everything else
that worries
that
you.
will worry you,
Yeah.
and get you in a really calm place, so that whatever happens, you're going at it in a place of calm.
Yeah, and if that all goes wrong, then you know how to cope if it goes wrong. That's kind of how she put it to me. And I just think, I've given birth 3 times and I just didn't know such simple things. Like she was saying to me, if you know what you're doing, your body releases a certain drug which helps you through labour and keeps you calm. If you panic, you then release adrenaline, which is basically the worst thing you can have in labour. Well, I think I've probably got through all my births with adrenaline. Do you know what I mean? Like, I haven't got a clue. And I was just like, how don't I know this stuff?
I know, it's because, you just don't.
So I just think I'm really excited about doing that. And I just hope, you know, I would love to have a home birth more than anything.
Really?
But I just,
There's the thought of all the kids, like their head popping up over the
and everyone's like, what? And I'm like, I'd love it. I'd love it.
You'd have the friends over, everyone just looking over the pool. How's it going, Rach?
Can someone Dean at Edie, and can you make me a cup of tea?
Over the stairs.
Literally. Josh running around. Oh, yeah, blood and mess. That's what he said. I'm not having blood and mess. I'm like, it's fine.
No, apparently it's
really
really
clean. Yeah, the midwife sort everything out. I don't know. You just hear, you know, it's the same with anything. It's just horror stories, isn't it? So it stresses Josh out because he's just so. And Siobhan said, I cannot wait to have him on this course because I'm going to change him. She's like, we are going to turn him. Because he's just, you know, men just worry, don't they? They want him in the best place. Yeah. And I think, like, from what she said, she gets the men involved. So if you panic with your breathing, they know what to do. And I think that's really important because it must be really hard for them to be there watching their wives in so much pain and not being able to fix it. Yeah, exactly. Like, you're just, you know, the amount of times I've said to Josh, like, he's like, whew, as if he's really tired doing the dishes. And I'm like, I'm carrying this. And he's like, if I could, I would. The way we're built, I can't carry it. So I think they kind of just, you know, have to do their work and sit back, whereas they would, if they could have more involvement, they would. So I'm really excited to kind of go and take him along. And
it's probably really nice as well because like, it means that sort of 5-10 minutes a night you're together, just sort of thinking about the new baby, breathing, and it's probably because it is so chaotic, actually just having that moment where it's kind of you two and the newbie. I'm really excited, and I love the fact that they're all going to have a sibling. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're all, it's kind of the icing on the cake. They're all going to share something. And, I mean, Edie's not going to share anything. She's horrific already. It's basically like she's just renting my womb for her child. Like, when I've gone to buy, like, the Lance-Knoll cream, she's like, what is that? I'm like, to put on Mummy's nipples when I feed. No, we are giving it bot box. I'm like, no, darling, Mummy's going to try and feed. No, Mummy, because then I can't do that. Edie's got no boobs. Edie needs... I'm like, oh, God. So we're going to have hell, I think, trying to kind of share with her. You know, if they get a look in, she's just going to go mad. Are they all excited?
Yeah, really excited. Betsy's just hilarious. She just wants everything to kind of match with what she wears because she's like, I need the pram to be in, Mum, because I'm going to be taking it out with my friends. I'm like, oh, Bets is not a doll. And they all want a boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they all want a boy. They're all desperate for a boy. I guess
because then it makes it 3 and 3 as well.
Yeah, but I'm quite surprised. I thought the girls would want a girl, but they don't. But we've got loads of boys. So we've got my nephew Rupert and loads of boys in the family that are babies that are just really cute. But I don't know. I've got no clue what it is. Like, no clue.
You don't really, though,
no,
do you?
Yeah, but some people go, I knew it was a boy. And I'm like, I've not got a clue.
But you feel like that's your first test as a mum? Like, I don't know.
That's what I think. And then I literally sit, you know, if I post a picture of my bum, I'll go through the comments and people are like, definitely a girl. The way you're carrying it's a boy. And I sit there with a piece of paper like, and Josh is like, what are you doing? It's hocus pocus.
My mum will literally be so on it with someone going, definitely a boy, definitely, I'm telling you, definitely,
is she right?
100%. Oh, no, never. She's even had her crystals out before, tried to convince my sister that she's having twins.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You know you're having a baby.
Yeah, that's
100%.
it. Yeah, that's what Josh says. It'll be one or the other. I'm like, yeah, it will. But let's just guess. It's
Was
fun.
it difficult, like, deciding not to find out?
No, but now it is, because
really?
I've got loads of friends that are pregnant. So I've got 5 having boys and my friend Beck's having a girl. So
that's a lot of boys.
yeah, and I'm like, and now I'm like, I'm having a boy, and Josh is like, and I'm like, I know I am, because Helen's just found out, and he's like, oh wow, well we don't need a scan if Helen's having a boy, we're bound to be but like now I'm like, oh, should we just find out, should we go and get a scan? And he's like, no, we're not. And I keep thinking of like the labour. If I know, of course it's still going to be amazing, but if I don't know, like I keep picturing them taking the baby and placing it into Josh's arms and thinking, if I don't know, and if I do know, and I just think, oh, I'll feel better if I don't know, and we get that minute, and then we tell the kids like it's a boy or a girl, rather than now. But it's killing me. I'm so impatient.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think if Josh said now, oh come on, let's find out, I probably would.
Oh,
but
that's
I'm so,
all it takes, isn't
yeah,
it? One of you to have a moment of weakness.
But he's so good. He's so like, we're not doing it, Rach. Like we said, we're not doing it. So we were in Exeter a couple of Fridays ago, and the baby scan place is there, and I said, oh, should we just ring and see if we can get a scan? And he was like, for what? And I was like, just to go and hang out with the baby and see it. And he was like, okay. So we went in, and they said, do you, like, is it a gender scan? And I kind of looked at him. He was like, no, she just wants to hang out with the baby and see it. We're just paying 85 quid to spend 5 minutes looking at it. And she was like, right, a reassurance scan. And he was like, no, not that either. We just want to see it. So she literally just like got it up, and she was like, look away because I invite its genitals. And then she was like, I was like, brilliant, thanks. And then we left, and I was like, what's the point of that? He was like, I don't know. So no, we didn't. But I'm happy. But when I had my 20-week scan, I said to the sonographer, like, does everyone find out? And she said she only has 8% of couples that don't.
Ooh.
Yeah. Did you find out with yours?
No.
Didn't you?
No.
What, with any of them?
No, and the third time around I hadn't really thought about it until I was asked if I wanted to know. I looked at Tom and was like, we don't, do we? We don't do that. We've never done that before. We're like, no.
And why is that? Just because we just weren't bothered?
Yeah, just that nice moment where it is that surprise, and you're like, oh, so already you've got a baby, and you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh, what is it?
That's what I think.
And usually it's Tom's job to tell me, but this time I looked, I was like, it's a boy!
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's how I look at it. And one of us is in for a surprise, because obviously Josh has had boys and I've had girls. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
one of you's going to be like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Hopefully him, and then I can sleep.
Yeah, is it weird thinking, oh gosh, you're going back to the start?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because they just sleep through now, and it's easy. And I think when I have a bad night, so Isaac sleepwalks quite a lot. And when he does, then I don't settle again, because I just panic he's going to walk out the house. You know, like we went away last weekend, and I found him in the bin at 3 a.m. in the kitchen looking for his leg. And I was like, darling, what are you doing? And he's like got orange peel and wet tea bags, and he's just launching all over it. And he's like, I'm looking for my leg. Like I'm an idiot. And I'm like, darling, your leg's on your body. Like it's here. Yeah. Like, and he's so sleepy. He's like ranting, looking for this leg for half an hour. So
what do you have to do in that situation?
Just let him do it.
Right.
Because if you try and wake them, they say it frightens. So you couldn't wake him up out of it anyway. But he finds it hilarious the next morning, because I'll go into him like, all right, did you find your leg? And he's like, what? And I'm like, look. And I'll show him, and he's just like, I'm so funny, aren't I?
You can film it now.
Yeah. He's like, aren't I funny? I'm like, no, I'm tired. You're not funny. I'm absolutely knackered. So, like, when I have nights with him sleepwalking, I'm really tired, and I keep thinking, oh, God, this will be life. But it's not forever, is it?
No.
And I think that's kind of where I'm at now. I think the first 4 years are hell. And that's what I tell people, you know. When they start primary school, they're so tired. Like, all of mine I've found, and because I've got August babies, this one will be an August baby, they've just kind of started school at 4 and they're shattered. So, and they start eating well. Like, I just find my kids for the first 4 years just dip and go through highs of what they eat, and then by the time they start primary school, when they come in and they're starving, and you're like, it's spaghetti, it's roast lamb, they'll just eat. So yeah, I think 4 years of hell, and then we're fine.
And what's been your biggest worry as a mum?
With this baby, or in general?
In general.
Probably how they're going to turn out, because I think I had obviously a really rubbish upbringing, and then I went into foster care, and I was just a really horrid teenager, and you know, I did a lot of things which I look back on now and think I could have ended up in prison, or I could have not be here today. You know, that's the reality of the stuff that I was kind of getting up to. And I think I deal with so many people that just live in this dream world where they think because they bring their kids up properly, they won't turn into that. Whereas the reality is the kids that I was doing that stuff with were going home to parents that were millionaires or really decent, nice, kind parents and lovely homes. And, some of those have gone on to, be addicted to drugs or, just ruin their lives. So I think that's kind of why I take the approach that I do with Betsy, because you've got to have a child that will be honest with you about anything, because if you don't, then I think that's kind of where you fall down and go wrong. And I think it's also about letting them know that if they're, a crap girlfriend or not a very nice friend or a rubbish sister, at times it's okay, because as humans we all kind of mess up and we're not good people at times. We've all done stuff which I think we cringe about and think, oh God, how did I treat that person like that? Or why wasn't I there for them? Or, I did something really bad there. And I just think that's kind of how I say to my kids, you're not always going to be nice. You're not always going to make the best decisions. But it's about learning from that and going, yeah, okay, that actually wasn't a good thing to do. But, in future that da-da-da-da-da. And, as adults, we still do it. I have days where I think, God, I could have handled that better. I didn't really need to snap at him or, But I think just in general, just making sure they're okay. And that's not in terms of going on to be really wealthy or, having amazing careers. I just want them to be happy and I just want them to meet partners that are going to love them. I don't care if they have got 5 kids and, and don't have any money. I just think as long as they're happy and they're in a relationship where they're loved and respected, then, we've kind of done our job all right, really. So, yeah.
It's really interesting listening to you talk. There's so many parallels with you and the Giovanna episode and the things that she said. Yeah, having done things in sort of growing up. Yeah. And how that's made her sort of interact with her teenagers. Yeah. It's just really interesting.
Yeah, because I think so many people just obsess over their kids going to uni and it's not there for me at all. And I don't think Betsy will go to uni. I don't think she's got it in her to go to uni because she hates school, she hates exams. And she might really surprise me and go, do you know what, actually, Mum, I'm going to do it, because she could do it. She's just not academic. And when she comes home, she's like, I've had a really bad day. I've got this % in my science or this in my maths. I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, it doesn't matter. If you don't pass your GCSEs, as long as you've tried, that's all you can say. Like, there is, we're asking kids to make decisions. I think I've only done what I really love doing in the last 3 years of my life, and I'm nearly 40. We're asking like 12, 13-year-olds to make choices about what topics they're taking to go on for their life. It's like, what?
Well, and then you hear so many people who have gone to uni who end up doing stuff
and in so much debt.
Yeah, and end up doing something that's not even related to what they studied.
Didn't need the degree for. Yeah. It's crazy. So I just think with education, obviously, it's really good if they come out and they get their GCSEs, but I think you can always kind of return to it, and there's so many other options that you can take, or do stuff later, or apprenticeships where you can work. Like Betsy will just graft. She's got it in her to work. She loves earning money, and anyone that she's had a job for will say to me, like, she runs rings around 18-year-olds. She's really good. We've given her a pay rise. She's so lovely.
And that must be amazing to hear of your child.
Yeah, it is, because I think then a teacher will ring and be like, oh, she's messed about in maths and she's thrown a pen and she's in isolation, and I'm like, oh God. But I think ultimately she's a really good kid, and and that's all I kind of. Whereas Talluda's the opposite. She wants to do her 11+, and we've got her a tutor, and she's working really hard. So she'll probably go on to grammar, like her tutor said. She's got a really good chance. I think she'll be really academic and go on to save all the animals in the world. But you're just raising so many different children with different kind of hopes and dreams, and it's just about ultimately just if they're happy. I don't care what they do. I don't care how much money they make. I just want them to go through life being a decent person that kind of look out for others and are just not hurt by other people. That's my biggest worry, really.
Yeah. And for you, I know that when you started blogging, you had actually come off social media completely.
Yeah.
And you came on to start. What made you want to share so much of you?
Probably because so at the time I wrote a post to Spotted Talkie, which was about a lady that I'd driven past every day on the way to school for like 10 years, I dropped my kids at breakfast club and then gone to work, and every day I drove past her, and she kind of started off with like tiny babies, a tiny little golden retriever puppy. She was absolutely stunning with this curly blonde hair, and I just drove past her every day, and I had that pang of like, God, she's a good mum. Do you know what I mean? She's nailing it. She's like, her kids are out the door. And then
no one's on the floor crying.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was going to my kids' school if I finished early to pick them up, and they'd be like, "Have you got any ID?" Because no one knew who I was. You know, because I was just at work, and then like, you know, for 10 years I was driving past her, and you know, the kids were obviously older. The dog was nearly dead, dragging it along. You know, everything had changed, and she was just such an inspiration to me as a mum. And I just thought, I just want to be like her. Like, I want to do some school runs, I want to go to some stuff. And I had a really demanding career, and it was really tricky. So I wrote a post to Spotted Talkie, which was an anonymous post, just to say, because, you know, just a thank you.
Yeah.
Just didn't even think it would go anywhere, and it went crazy. Like, as far as America, China, there were press camps on the bridge. So the next morning I drove to work, and there was all these reporters on the bridge, and I was like, oh, what are they doing? And then I got into work, and I said to my boss, there's loads of reporters on the bridge. And he was like, yeah, have you seen this post? And I was like, oh my God. I was literally like,
what have I done to the lady?
And then I was repeatedly ringing Josh, who was in custody, like couldn't talk. And I was like, I need him. Like, do I press 999 and try and get hold of him? I don't know what to do. So, yeah, it went mental. And this poor woman was like really private, not on social media, like, and she just had her whole life blown up. She couldn't take her kids to school for a week because they were just camped in her garden, like desperate to get a picture. And then everyone in the comments of that post were like, whoever wrote this post needs to blog, like they need to blog. And I was saying to Josh, like, so then I looked and I found like mummy bloggers with like huge followings, but they kind of all had their lives together, which is really nice. But I didn't, and I never have really. So I said to Josh, oh God, and because of everything we'd been through as well, I just thought the hate that I would get on the posts would be mega. And Josh was just like, but Rach, loads of people have been through like stuff in their lives, like they'll probably relate. So so I did, and I played it safe for a couple of months and just kind of tried to write funny stuff, and it wasn't really going anywhere. And then one day I had like a really bad day, and the kids had driven me mental, and Josh and I had argued, and I just thought, do you know what, I'm just going to write about it. I'm just going to be honest, because I might get just a bit of support. And it just went mad, and it just made me see that actually being honest about things not being easy, it helps people, and they really helped me, you know, with their responses, and just the love and the support that, you know, like you get, you know, people root for you, don't they, that don't even know you, and it's really heartwarming that, you know, strangers see the good that you do and want to be part of it, and that builds a community that ultimately goes on to change lives of other people. So
and I think the great thing about what you do is you talk about the fact that your situation comes with so much judgment about it maybe being wrong, and actually you're showing that it's right. Yeah,
exactly. And I think I wouldn't want, if I had the option now for someone to go, okay, you can go back to the start and you can meet Josh when you're both 18 and you can have your children together and you can live happily ever after, what would you choose? And I wouldn't choose it. I would want what we've got today, because I think it's so powerful, and it's so for our kids. Like, our kids have grown up knowing, like, Betsy is just fierce with like steps and halves, and she will not have like anyone say bad things about step families.
Really?
And she's really respectful of like step parents, you know, when she goes to people's houses, and is just aware of stuff. And I think, you know, what we've got is amazing. And I think, so like you say, so many people probably look and go, oh, whereas I think because I've shouted about it so much and, you know, shown how happy we are, as crazy as it is, we are so happy. You know, Josh and I are so in love, our kids just idolise one another, and we're a really strong family unit. I think it kind of gives step families that hope, you know, where it's like, actually we're not scum of the earth, we're not, you know, to be frowned upon.
To be a step parent is such an important role,
and it's hard. It's a hard role, you know. You've got a microscope upon you all the time from, you know, her ex-partner's parents and his and this and family court and the school, and you know, you're under a microscope where you're being judged, and actually when everything's going okay, no one stops you and goes, you're doing a really good job raising someone else's kids, like you're doing amazing. But the minute you do something wrong, like you favour your own child, or you don't give them that, or you buy her Adidas trainer and her Nike, or, you know, everyone, it's like, oh my God, and it's just like, oh God, give her a break. So, you know, it's like Edie, you know, she's got a stepmum where she goes and stays with her dad, and she idolises her. And I think it's no different, really, her feeling like that about her stepmum than feeling like it about Josh's sister. Because if she had the choice to go to Josh's sister's house, Hannah, and spend the day there, she would pick that over me all day long. That doesn't bother me. I think it's really cute.
It doesn't mean that she doesn't love you.
And it doesn't mean that I'm not her mum. She still comes home and she wants and needs me. So it's the same with her stepmum. Like, I would much rather her say, actually, can I go to Dad's today and be with, you know, Dad and his girlfriend, rather than her begging not to go because she didn't like her or she didn't feel loved. Like, there's nothing worse than that. Yeah. And that's how I grew up. So I think I don't want anything.
You had a terrible relationship with your stepmom.
And you know, I haven't spoke to her for over 10 years, but I think I wouldn't want that on any child. I just want, you know, kids to be loved, and I just wish that we could kind of, as adults, see outside the box to do that for our kids, because that's who it's about. You know, that's the only person really that it affects.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the way that you speak about it is so admirable. My mum and dad aren't together.
Oh, aren't they?
No, they're not
didn't even
together.
know that.
No, they've not been together since I was 16. And to be honest, it was a terrible time for the first few years. Lots of animosity. But we spend Christmas together now. Like, everyone's together. That's why
I look at your family and I'm like, I just want to be Italian. I just want that.
And I think it was us kids going, you brought us into this world, and fair enough, you don't want to be together, but we want to have Christmas with a family, like, you know. Yeah. And it wasn't easy, but, you know, we're there now, and we've got an amazing stepmum, and I do think you kind of look at your parent as well, and kind of look at who's making them happy. Yeah. And you kind of, I want them to be a part of us.
Yeah, you do. And I think, you know, ultimately stepchildren grow up to know what's right and wrong. So, you know, being a stepmum or a stepdad while you've got a stepchild that hates you and is saying you're not my mum or you're not my dad, or they're still a child. They're still a baby, and ultimately they are going to grow, and they're going to look back. I look back and I see that, you know, my home life, my mum was always like an evil person. She was this, she was that. That didn't make me hate my mum. That made me hate the people that were saying that to me, because it made me miss my mum more. Do you know what I mean? Not at any point did I believe them and think, my mum's a really evil person.
Well, also because it didn't marry up with the image
of my mum. Yeah. And then I would go and see my mum like a couple of times a year, and she would never badmouth my dad or stepmum. Do you know what I mean? She was and when I would say, well, they've said this, she'd be like, just ignore them. Don't take it in. And I think when when you're a baby, you don't say stuff, or a child, or even a teenager, but when you get to adulthood and you look back, you see the parent that did right and wrong, and you see the step parent that did right and wrong. And I think that's all I can do. You know, Josh and I won't condone anyone being talked badly about, you know, no matter what our personal feelings are. We don't let anyone come into our home and talk badly about adults or parents, or bring adult conflict into it, because they're babies. And I think so many children have to recover from childhoods now, and it's not the way. They don't need to carry any burden or responsibility. So yeah.
I think the way that you talk about everything online is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for doing all of that.
And I think you jogging around the world after you've just given birth is amazing.
I waited 6 months, otherwise my insides would be outside. So we finish every podcast with 3 sentences. Okay. So you just have to finish them.
Oh, right.
It's easy.
Go on.
Being a mum means?
The world to me.
Since becoming a mum,
I'm really stressed all the time.
And I'm happy when?
I'm with Josh and the babies.
Oh, yeah, that's lovely. Well, return to Josh.
Yeah.
Enjoy a little stroll around London.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
I've loved
it's been
coming.
Amazing. Oh,
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by Fisher-Price. Fisher-Price recognises that every child is unique, and in developing toys that are filled with imagination and excitement, help little ones to grow as they're introduced to the world around them.